I want to talk about another story that we saw in the news. Counter protesters. There's a video of them with an American flag, multiple Trump banners out there reenacting the death of George Floyd. So we've got the pendulum swinging the other way. This is something that I've talked about a lot on the show. The pendulum swings both ways. At the outset of this, the whole country was unified in what they saw against happening to George Floyd. We were very upset about it. We were unified. The pendulum was on one side. The pendulum swung a little bit, and people started defending the cops. And now we're seeing that to a certain extent. We're going to cover the New York Police Department. They threw a temper tantrum the other day. I'm going to cover that. We've got some video. We've got these protesters. We've got more and more people who are rallying against any meaningful reform. We've got people trying to co-opt the justice reform movement. We have, Antifa. We've got other, white supremacists. We have politicians from both parties jumping into it. There's been a vacuum of power that has been created, and everybody is racing in to try to grab some of it. And so the pendulum is swinging the other way. People are now organizing in a way that is going to basically push back against the justice reform movement. And it's going to get ugly. We're seeing that already. It's already pretty ugly. I'm happy that we're having the conversation about criminal justice reform. Not particularly happy with what I'm seeing in terms of, stores being burnt down, people being killed. Never wanted that. That shouldn't be a part of the conversation ever at all. But the meaningful part of the conversation, of course, we want to continue to have happen. And unfortunately, people are becoming angry. They're becoming irritable, and they are acting out. They're lashing out. I want to show you this clip that comes from an NBC affiliate 10 of these protesters. It's pretty gross.
What happened next was this: a group of people counter-protesting on private property decorated with Trump signs next to the road, antagonizing protesters. On this cell phone video shared with NBC 10, we can see a man kneeling on the chest of another person on the ground. It's not clear why. They shouted that George Floyd should have complied with police and that, quote, Black lives matter to no one.
It automatically brought me to tears.
Darian Fennell organized yesterday.
Yeah, so that was the protest, and we got some reactions from some people, but I think we can all kind of agree on what the reactions are. That sounds horrendous. It's really inappropriate, not good comments. It's insightful. It's almost meant to incite a response. To me, when I see something like that seems so obviously kind of meant to instigate people, I get concerned about that. They put the flags up. They're on private property. You can see how they're sort of orchestrating this type of protest to cause a reaction from the other side. We're seeing that on both sides of this. Here we've got, some white Trump, counter protesters. But on the other side, we've had, and I covered this in previous shows, cops who are causing or instigating the chaos, cops without badges, officers or unknown people who certainly look like law enforcement, who are throwing, Molotov cocktails and stuff in trash cans and lighting those up. We have officers with no names, totally unidentified. They're all in, riot gear. We don't know who anybody is, and they're stealing waters. They're doing all sorts of horrendous things from the protesters. So they're instigating to cause a reaction out of the protesters. On the other side, we've got, these white Trump supporters who are allegedly Trump supporters who are also trying to incite a reaction. Fortunately, that didn't happen. The protesters who were walking by their street didn't engage with them, but certainly, things could get sour if somebody decides that they're going to go over there. They said specifically in that clip, the guy's was ridiculous. He said specifically they should have, I think it's highlighted here. Let me get over to it. Yeah, so we have it on this clip.
Fuck you! Comply with the cops! Comply with the cops! And this wouldn't happen! Keep going!
Yeah, so he's saying there, if you didn't hear that, this is what happens. This is what happens. Comply with the cops. Comply with the cops. He's dead because he didn't comply. So, I don't know what video they saw. I thought he was totally compliant when he was on the ground in handcuffs and he had 3 cops on the back of his neck, maybe 4. He was pretty damn compliant as far as I can tell. they kept the knee on the neck after he was complying. So, that it looks to me like it is just a setup. Like they're just, there's a bunch of people back there, probably with guns, probably with some weapons. They're waiting for somebody to go over to them and cause a scene so that they can respond in kind. You see all of those people just kind of lined up there in the back, and it's meant to incite, it's meant to cause rage. So I'm very glad that the protesters, of course, did not bite on that. Those people should be ashamed of themselves for trying to take advantage of a dead person in George Floyd in what was clearly a unifying event and a national and global tragedy, something that should never happen. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know if they even watched the video, or I don't know, what their specific viewpoint is, other than they seem to be highly ignorant and highly misinformed. Now, one of these individuals is actually from the Bayside State Prison, and he's an officer there. So he's actually essentially law enforcement. He's not a uniformed patrol officer that you would see on the streets, but he's an officer in the prison complex. So the Bayside State Prison released a statement. We have been made aware that one of our officers from the Bayside State Prison participated in the filming of a hateful and disappointing video that mocked the killing of George Floyd. The other person was from FedEx. That person who the statement did not identify has been suspended and banned while the agency investigates. So we have one FedEx employee, we've got one corrections officer from Bayside who is law enforcement, who they're not naming, as is always the case. They never name. Well, no, we do have a name: Joe DeMarco and Jim DeMarco. Okay, we do have names. Good, but the agency didn't name them, but somebody else found their names. So, this is kind of, they try to hide the ball on these things. It sounds like he's been suspended and banned while the agency investigates. I don't know what they have to investigate on that. That guy is clearly not somebody who should be in a law enforcement position. But certainly they can do their investigation and have a field day with that.